Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio, the show about ways to stay competitive in a changing market, break through business plateaus, and respond to the changing expectations of today's customers. Your host, Jess Dewell, is a rapid growth entrepreneur, consultant, and business advocate with a 20-year track record of business excellence. She candidly discusses how to achieve your growth strategy and realize your company's unfulfilled potential. Now, here's Jess.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. You're in the right place for conversations about needs that we as leaders face today, right now. Maybe not yesterday and maybe not tomorrow, but right now. And yesterday and tomorrow. I know that's really what it's all about, is that we're always grappling with something. We're always looking toward the next. We're always reflecting about what's already happened. And we take a breath and we're always, as much as we can, present with the right here. So as customer expectations change, technology changes, even market trends start to shift here and there, we're thinking about our short-term goals. Yet with change happening so quickly, we are also thinking about our long-term positioning. And this is program 232, where when we're thinking about the right now and the long-term from now, we're thinking about necessary leadership statistics. With us today is Patti Haus. And you know, Patti is a woman that I met at MicroConf earlier this year. And not only did we hit it off, we've stayed in contact since then. And we're more than just conference friends. We're becoming actual friends. And as I brought this topic up to her, not only did she light up because it's work that she loves to do and to talk about, I also think her background and her position, that what she does and what she brings to the table gives us a viewpoint that is vast. And I'm glad to have a different set of experience and a different set of interactions with people to also bring that to the table. Well, let me introduce you to Patti. Patti is a powerhouse. There is no two ways about it. A powerhouse when it comes to copy for launches, for email funnels, as well as the strategy to get it done and get it done right and get it done with impact. Patti is the one that brings it all together and holds it together. Her secret power is writing the copy that your customers really and actually want to read, all the way to the end. She does it through an insane amount of research, and she says a sprinkle of humor, but it's really more like a fire hose of humor. Welcome, Patti. We are so glad you're here today.
Thanks for having me. I am so excited to be here. Although that intro made me a little nervous. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to expect me to be funny now?
No, never. Maybe. I'm not sure. I won't leave it up to anybody else. So let's just not even think about that. Well, you know, so when we started this conversation and I was like, come on the show, this would be so great. I asked you a question and you had an amazing answer. And so whatever your answer is today, I know it's going to be equally amazing. You know, I want to lower the bar back down to where I started it with. So no pressure,
Okay.
Patti.
Okay.
I want to know, you know, what is a necessary leadership characteristic?
Well, you know, when you think about it, there's many different characteristics that a leader needs to have. But I think, you know, being a copywriter, I think that great communication is absolutely vital. Like, you cannot even be considered a leader if you don't have great communication. Think about, let's go back to 2007. Steve Jobs was introducing the iPhone. And, you know, this was going to revolutionize the way we do our business and the way we run our lives, really. You know, no more flip phones, no more like hitting the number 2 4 times to text a word with the letter C in it. Like, not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And when he was up on stage, he communicated his passion for the product and for his business. And he did such a great job. And leaders need to be skilled communicators in so many relationships. Like, Steve Jobs up on stage is not going to be speaking the same way to those people in the audience as he would to, say, a department head or somebody who works at the Apple store. So he has, a great leader has to be able to communicate effectively and tailor their message to people at all different levels. A great leader also has to think with clarity, express ideas, and share information with many different audiences. Again, tailoring the content. They have to learn to handle the rapid flow of information. Information comes in so quickly to anybody in a leadership role. And then they have to share that information with people, all sorts of stakeholders like employees and partners and board members and influencers. And I think the only way that a leader can be really considered a great communicator is if they're really authentic in their messaging. So they're honest, they're sincere, they actually genuinely care about the things that matter to the people that they're talking with. They shouldn't be afraid of being real, of showing their own values. And of course, I think that it goes without saying that in order to be a great communicator, you also have to be able to listen, and you have to be able to hear what people are saying. I sort of think this is becoming a lost art, the art of listening. I think we have so many things being shouted at us from many different ways that we have forgotten how to listen. But a great leader really does have the ability to listen and to use that information in a way that makes their own communication just so much better.
I want to go back to a word that you said toward the beginning, which is tailored. Many of us on the giving of information side of things recognize that tailoring information is necessary. What is actually required to tailor it? Because I think most people say, yeah, well, I said these words over here, then I said those words in this other situation, but it wasn't enough of a difference to actually meet the audience. So this concept of tailoring what we say is so important.
It is. And I think tailoring the content can mean a number of things. Like if you're writing, say you're writing sales messages, you're writing emails to your customers, you're going to tailor the message so that it shows the benefits to them. But if you're talking, to employees, I think you want to tailor your message so that they understand, in a way that doesn't feel like they're being told what to think or what to do, that they're still motivated. I think that a great leader can use communication to motivate people like crazy. And I think that that's something that's really important to everybody in a leadership role, whether you're, a leader of a company or you're just acting like a leader. I think that the ability to motivate with your words is so powerful. And also motivate people to get shit done, right? You got to get stuff done.
That's right. Totally. And that's where I find it interesting, because I find it interesting that you chose Steve Jobs. Some people look at Steve Jobs and they see him for the visionary and they listen to what he says and they're like, yes, this is what's next. And thank you for being this visionary. We're all so excited. And sometimes we hate you because you're so visionary, right? Whatever the spectrum is. But I don't remember where I was going with this.
I'm probably going to say that other people hated his guts, as my guess.
Well, yes. And he wasn't that, and I don't know how much he tailored his message, right? I don't know enough about Steve Jobs to know what he was able to communicate to the public was very different than I think what he communicated internally. And the only reason I'm getting that is from the biography that I read of his, from other things that other people have said and interviews and some of these traits that come out. So we can still be off the mark in our communication, even if our intention is there. And so I'm wondering if a strength of, I'm totally digging into this communication piece here. If a true communication strength also goes into this concept of what part of communication are we good at? Are we good at connecting? Are we good at visioning? Are we good at motivating? And really owning that.
Too, that, Steve Jobs is not going to build a multi-billion-dollar company by being warm and fuzzy to everybody. And I don't think we should expect leaders to always be like a grandpa figure. That's not the reality. That's not how you build a business. We can't please everybody. And we shouldn't be expected to. So I think that that's, one thing to take away is that, we don't please everybody as leaders every time we open our mouths. That shouldn't ever be expected either. But I think that we can communicate in a way that doesn't necessarily, piss everybody off every time we open our mouths either.
Right.
But knowing that there are those hard conversations still have to happen,
Yes.
If you can never have those hard conversations as a leader, you're going to be stuck with a whole bunch of people working under you that are, not qualified, or they're not doing their job. And that has nothing to do with you, but you have to, you have to really work at, even having those hard conversations as well.
It's really true. And that's one of the reasons I think I was bringing that up, because if all I can do is talk and vision, I'm probably going to need somebody else to be in the room with me to have a hard conversation. If I am really good at creating win-win scenarios that everybody can buy into, I may be missing the mark on something when it comes to actually ensuring other stakeholders outside of this room also are at the table, right? So really recognizing where we're strong in just this realm of communication, I think is fascinating in and of itself, because there's also a consistency to it. For those of us out there who are listening, and even here, as I'm thinking through this with you, Patti, I'm experiencing this concept of, oh, well, am I that? Or am I something else? Or, there's a little bit of self-reflection automatically built in here. And to really own and say, yeah, this is the way that I am. Okay, I love that. Now, how do people respond to the way that I am?
Yeah, that's right. And I think most great leaders really do know where their weaknesses are. I don't think anybody would expect anybody to be perfect, right? I mean, that's just not reality. But recognizing where your weaknesses are, and then either working to overcome that, or more likely, bringing somebody in who can help you with that.
Yeah. Well, knowing that we're going to do this, I actually, I was thinking about authenticity versus conformity, right? There's this, as far as the characteristics or traits that successful leaders would possess, and understanding that there's this, that there's a tightrope in everything. I was trying to think as you were talking, what was the other one for communication? We might think of that, and we may have touched on it slightly, but we've got this need for authenticity. Let us truly be who we are. Yet there's also this need for conformity. Here's what we are in the role in this place and space together. Mm-hmm. And I find that fascinating. So I couldn't just choose one. I chose two that worked together.
Yeah.
Because everything has a flip side, right? You're either so authentic, somebody might call you a rebel, or you're so conforming, people are like, I don't even know if that's really her.
Yeah. And I think that also comes down to your audience too, right? I mean, I think you should always be authentic in at least in holding on to your own values. I think that you have to sleep with yourself at night. So you need to do the things that work with your own value system, whatever that might be. I mean, everybody has, many people have different value systems, but I think that, it's worth knowing too, if say you're working, you want to become, the CEO of this old school company,
right.
It's been around for 300 years. Chances are you're going to have to conform to 300 years of business, right? That's why startups have a much more, fun culture. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think that, knowing what your audience is going to matter as well.
It does tie all the way through. I have an interesting story from my way back self. And this was a story. I probably handled it very poorly. I'm also telling it from a lens of humor. It's like, it's not an emotional story anymore. And so to me, it's funny, but it may not be funny to anybody else. So here goes. Here I am in my 20s. I get this call out of the blue. One of the 6 companies that I was in charge of running, I got a call. And I'm like looking at the phone, and I had just gotten to give you an idea of the time, it was in the early 2000s, I think. So I had my first cell phone ever. It was really great. And I'm listening to this sound, and all of a sudden I heard rogue. They're a rogue. They blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what is happening here? Well, turns out through lack of communication, we did something we weren't supposed to do in terms of prioritization of development for this bigger picture of who got what features in their product. Are you tracking with me so far, Patty?
Yep.
So all of a sudden I got rogue. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. So here's my 20-year-old self going, I'm on the phone and I have a little bit of an attitude. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to get off the phone and go tell that person you just called them rogue. And we're going to see what happens next. So here I am, my authentic self going, I can't believe you would call anybody rogue. I can't believe you would tell me that something is wrong when you never told me there was a thing to not do in the first place. So here I am showing up in all of my, for lack of a better word, knowledge of understanding of a larger corporate entity and what a process was. So that's exactly what I did. We got off the phone and I went over and I said, hey, you just got called a rogue. And of course, that did not go well either. So here I was, I was messenger. I got shot as the messenger and it didn't go very well. And I was like, well, hang on a second. So after we got through all the hoopla, then something became clear. I was like, well, hang on. I've got stuff to do over there with that person who called me all in an uproar because there is definitely a communication breakdown there. Got that. Then over here, I'm like, I have to go home and eat dinner with this person tonight.
Oops.
I know, right? Oh, that's what it's all about. So I was like, well, you know what? So what if you are? I asked the question, so what if you are? Coming back to your comments about you can't be all things to all people. Internally, we had been making decisions and it wasn't just something that was done alone. We were in that together. And so I was like, oh, that means I'm a rogue too. I don't know if I like that, right? Same reaction he had. It was like, we aren't trying to go out of our way to stir a pot. We wanted to really be involved and support and do what we said we were going to do, which was to grow the businesses the way that we were going to grow the businesses. So long story short, everything happened, everything came to a close, but it never got resolved because the other thing that I learned is that unless we're all willing to accept that somebody, it was us or somebody else in a situation, got hurt in some way, actually, perceptively, imaginarily, it didn't matter. It's their truth. If somebody's truth didn't get heard, it's going to fester.
Right.
And there's a trust breakdown there. And so I'm not exactly sure what the part, it's a big part of communication. It's a big part of authenticity. But then there's this concept of conformity. If I had better understood the structure of what was coming at me, I could have better understood the entire situation. And I would have been less upset and frustrated. The person would have been less upset and frustrated. And we probably could have avoided the whole situation altogether. But it was due to a lack of understanding. And it never occurred to me to ask. I didn't know. But nobody ever said, hey, have you noticed that we do things a little differently here? Have we noticed we do things a little differently here?
Well, and I think too, generationally chatting is also like it's a bit of a landmine, right? To try to maneuver, like talking between different generations. I think that's if you can master that, you can probably rule the damn world. It's I know, I have children that are a different generation, obviously. And, sometimes talking to them, it's like they're speaking a different language. And I'm sure they feel that same way about me.
It's amazing what we learn at home, right? And I think that bringing up our families and how we're communicating around that is very telling. I also think it might help us illuminate some of those weaknesses. So we just understand we do this better than other things, or we don't do this as well as different things. Do you have a lot of experience generationally? I mean, in terms of thinking about, and I'm totally going to call on your copywriting here and the insane amount of research and things that you do, because I don't always know everybody's motives, even if I understand the overall motives of their generation. I feel pretty versed in that, but I still tend to mess up more than, it's clunky more than it is easy.
Yeah. I tend to believe the best in people, even if they're communicating it in a way that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, like I have so many stories, but sometimes I need to be schooled in the way, the young kids are talking. But I do like to believe that people's motives are pure unless they show me that they're not. Because otherwise that's too hard on my own self to believe the worst in people. So I'm not going to do it. It's just not me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think generationally it's difficult, but it's not impossible, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Knowing what matters to people really does matter, like, I think I have always had a lot of friends of multiple ages. I have a good friend who is like my mom's age, and I have good friends who are barely older than my children.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps because you can then talk to people on a really like casual level about the things that matter to them. And it's not like you're talking to them as a boss or as, an employee or anything.
Yeah. And I'm thinking some of that might be summed up, as we're calling out values and traits and things like that. There's some empathy in that. I mean,
Yeah.
this is an office that I work at in addition to being my radio studio. And so there's a table behind us, and I have a really amazing window on one side of the room. Well, for a variety of reasons, I always sit with my back to the window. I like people to be able to look outside if they're here. I like, there's all kinds of reasons. Then it occurred to me one day, I'm sitting across from somebody and they're squinting at me the whole time and they didn't even say anything at all. And so the next time they came over, I said, I adjusted our chairs. So we're a little off. So you're not looking straight at this window while we're talking, and you might not have to squint as much.
To the bright afternoon sun.
I know, yes. Basically, that's what it was. And it didn't occur to me. And she actually articulated to me, she said, thanks for thinking about how I might feel and adjusting our situation, our setting accordingly for the best interaction. And I was like, oh yeah, we ought to call those things out a little more often, because I was like, whatever, it's the course of business. And then I paused and I said, well, you're welcome. And I'm glad to continue to do it, because having a sense of what are we doing to make the best interaction possible matters more than our words, more than where our weaknesses are and what we tend to be able to do or not do, but just our care for another being. It makes me think too. Let me see. This other piece is around that is, where do we see it in life, right? Toddlers. We're going to talk about different ages. Toddlers, you should see the love and the care. You go to a park and they're helping each other up and they're figuring out, how does everybody have a role here? And sometimes flat out asking, well, what do you want to do in this game?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, there is nothing like the truthfulness from a toddler, right?
Yes.
They haven't learned yet that they need to watch what they say, that somebody might be offended by something that they say out of pure love or joy or whatever, frustration. I mean, and they just say, they might not be terribly articulate, but they always get the message across, right? They know what they're thinking.
They do. Yeah, they really do. And I enjoy it very much because I get reminded so often. I don't have a toddler anymore. I'm an 8-year-old, and I know your kids are a little older than that.
Yep, 18 and almost 24.
Exactly.
Quite a bit older than that.
So different stages, right? We got some different stages going on here, but there's something that we get to learn from those even closest to us. And I like to listen to what people say to each other when I'm not around. So when Carter's not around, my son, how does he talk to other people? When I join in a conversation, because my whole entire team at Red Direction is remote. So when I join a meeting and everybody's already there talking and they don't know I'm there yet, I'm listening to what they say. Not because I want to eavesdrop, but because I want to hear how they're actually communicating, because it helps me understand their authentic self. Because as much as I like it or not, sometimes I come into a room and I change the dynamic, right? You're the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. What is your role when you're walking into a situation? And if you are the person that's going to be the dynamic setter or changer in a room, there's a greater need for empathy, not because we have to make everybody happy, not because we want everybody to understand us, not because everybody's going to get what they want, but because we have a responsibility to set up the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're aware of that, I think that's like you're already 90% there.
Right.
You know, I think it's that most people are not aware that they need to be aware of it. And therefore they don't do anything. They don't work to make people comfortable in those situations. They don't actively try to lead. You know, really it comes down to, are you leading in a way that is authentic and that makes people feel good and comfortable? Maybe not always happy, but are you doing it in a way that's the best for the business and for the people in the business?
You're listening to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. This is program 232, Necessary Leadership Characteristics. Use hashtag VBB Radio because your experiences matter as we're shaping what it means to effectively lead today. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. In every program, we share stories, tips, and concepts that benefit short-term goals and increase confidence in long-term positioning. Stay current and receive programs to continue sparking ideas about growth strategy by subscribing to the program at voiceofboldbusiness.com. Now, back to Jess.
Okay, I have to see how big your mug is, Patti, because I think your mug is about as big as mine in a whole different shape. I love it.
It says rescued is my favorite breed, in honor of my puppy. So yes.
That's so beautiful. I love it.
So fabulous. I don't even put it in the dishwasher. That's how much I love it.
Oh, okay. I don't have a mug that special just yet.
Wait, if you get one that has rescued as my favorite breed in gold, you will be like, I am not washing that in the dishwasher.
That's right. I think that's fabulous. We have a small insight into you, Patti, and that's beautiful and wonderful. Right before the break, you were talking about leading with intention and this concept of recognizing our own dynamic in a room, in a situation, and in a conversation. And so intention matters. I walk into so many companies, and this may show up in their communication from your perspective too, Patti, and I would love to hear what you're seeing or your thoughts are on this, is that I walk into more companies where the founders or the owners or the team that is doing they've got the manager, senior manager, executive type roles, they have zero intention. They're like, here's your job, go do it. But there's nothing to tie other than getting the job done and knowing that the job itself is going to get to the goals. There's no formation or connection of, well, here's the person in the role that could actually not only get to those goals, but to bring other ideas to the table and maybe surpass the goals that we already have. And it's very tactical, and it's almost like a chessboard in most companies. They don't get out to this bigger concept of values and mission as often as I think they want to.
Yeah, there's a lot of lip service, I think, paid to our mission statement, and these are our values. And yet so few companies actually intentionally lead people towards, that mission statement and working within their values. It's almost like they think if they just write it, it's all good, right? I have this great mission statement, I put it on my website. That means that I am a value-driven company, but they're not really. So I think that expecting people to just do their job and not, give them, sort of the motivation and the values behind it is unlikely to end up, the way you want it to.
Always. It's interesting. I walk in when I am setting up working with companies and doing some different things. as I'm assessing the people that I will be working with, the 1 to 5 people typically that will be working with me and how we're working together, because that's the top. I want to say, in spite of it all, the culture is reinforced from the top, right? There can be all kinds of different things happening everywhere, but it's all whatever's happening at the top is reinforcing or discouraging certain behaviors all the way across the board. And sometimes the vision, mission, values, what I see in a company, it's all external. They did it all for their customers. Our vision for you is, our service for you is, our values for you and our community are. And then they're like, but we have our values down. And I'm like, you're not meeting your growth goals. Well, we have our values down, but you can't even all get to a meeting at the same time. Well, we have our values down. Well, nobody's doing the things that they need to do so we can get more clients.
Yeah.
As an example. And those, by the way, each one of those examples came from a different company.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
But here's the thing. If I were to look at Red Direction, I'm going to own it. We are not perfect here at Red Direction. We have some of those things that crop up too. And by the way, so whose job is it? It's my job. It's my job as the leader of the company to go, oh, we're not, we've moved out of good intention and our work has gone to busy, is how I like to put it.
Yeah,
Our
totally.
work has gone to busy. And then what do we do to get it back? And what does that look like? And how do we look at things? And it comes down then to prioritization, right? Are we prioritizing on just having things to do? Or are we prioritizing on making a difference?
Yeah. Yeah. Are we putting in our 8 hours and then we're good and it doesn't matter what we actually accomplished?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy and weird is all I have to say. Oh,
Yeah.
man. We're talking a lot about executive presence is what I'm recognizing.
Yeah.
The way we communicate, where are we strong, recognizing and being aware of how we change a situation, which means our actions matter. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew your actions mattered and you had no idea what you were supposed to do?
Oh, I think everybody has. I mean, I know when I worked corporate, there was sometimes a lot of lip service paid to, we're this values, these are our values. But then when it came down to, similar to what you said about this is our mission statement and these are our values when it comes to our customers, we don't actually have any when it comes to our employees. And I feel like that was a lot of times what I dealt with, and it's not to say I work for terrible companies, but leading is a difficult thing for a lot of people. And when decisions are made by a board, which a lot of times they are, I don't know that it's always the right decision that's made for the benefit of everybody,
Yes, because those things get prioritized too.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, can it be a win-win? Sure. Well, okay. And then the other piece of that is, they may be working from the best intention, but not all the sides are represented. And when not all the sides are represented and either somebody won't speak up, can't speak up, or doesn't know to speak up, I think, is what it comes back to that. It changes the conversation.
Well, look at how many boards are made up of middle-aged white men, right, making the decisions for everybody. I mean, we have seen the problems that causes all over the world.
Yes.
And, not to make this into a big, forum on this, but I think that kind of thing, all matters, right? Is like, are we represented by the right amount of people who can communicate well with the people that we're trying to serve?
How do you do that?
Well, I think representation is a huge part of it. So yeah. Do we need to have diversified boardrooms? Hell yeah, we do. We need to have more women. We need to have more people of color. We need to have different ethnic minorities. All of that needs to come in, and it only makes your company stronger. Is the crazy thing, I think a lot of companies fight over that, right? Because at that level, it is well represented by middle-aged white men. That's just the way it is. But if they were to work a little harder, they would probably end up with better results. from the C-suite on down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. How do we do, and yes, that's how we do it. The getting there is such a tricky piece. It's a tricky piece because not only would a company be strengthened, but a company in the long run, a company might be weakened in the now. And I think that's actually what prevents a lot of change. Of course, it would be better for us in the future. But if we do it now, we're hurting ourselves now, which means the future never gets here and we never make change because we're always thinking about the now and not the future. Yeah. And so in my experience, that is the hardest part, is we've got to think about what's best for everybody right now. Well, if we want to bring in this thing or expand into this market or to enter a new community or whatever the case may be, here's how we're going to do it. And we can't take the time. That was in air quotes for everybody listening. We can't take the time. And I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to of course we can, we're choosing not to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that if real growth is ever wanted, which I imagine everybody listening really wants true growth, they have to figure out these little, seemingly small problems before they become big problems.
And earlier is better.
Yeah.
Earlier is better. Understanding understanding where the company is at, understanding what the strengths are, understanding what the mission and vision and values are, and where is mission, vision, and values strong and where is it failing, is a great quarterly exercise. It's a great quarterly exercise just and by the way, it would be a good thing to ask your board members who have a different type of responsibility and a different type of role. It would be really good to ask your middle manager teams. It would be great to ask your frontline people, whatever group, and vary it up, but see where is your vision, mission, and value strong and where is it failing, for no other reason than to just have a reality check, because it's super easy to get in our own heads and seek out what we want to know, and we're seeking out more of what we want to know, and we're not seeking out those other things, and we get stuck in that sameness. And that's what I would call what we started talking about, the lack of diversity and inclusion in different areas of business. It's because we're stuck in sameness.
Yeah. Well, I think people, unless you really actively work at it, we hang out with people who are just like us.
Yeah.
Our friends, our colleagues are people who are just like us. And the only way you get past that is to actually work at getting past it, right? To notice that this may be something that is hindering me in really becoming as successful as I'd like to be.
Oh, and it's hard. It's hard. Here's what I'm like, when did I go to the grocery store last and who did I see there? When was, who drove today at home was trash day. I saw the trash truck driver. I actually waved at that trash truck driver, but I don't even know if it's the same one from every week because it doesn't usually happen. Right. So now, and then I'm thinking, as I was out walking today, as I was going to the car, as I was dropping Carter off at a camp, right, whatever that case is, who do I see and did I really see them? I think, did I really see them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a go-to self-reflection when you're looking at improving leadership strengths of your own that you're like, here's where I start?
Well, I don't know. I would say that I'm more like I like to give myself encouragement. I like to do the Nike thing, like just do it. You can do it. I like to do that kind of thing is probably my go-to, like no excuses, like every saying that's on Nike is really what I tell myself at all times whenever I feel like I can't do something. I just like, what would Nike say? Then I try and do that.
That's awesome. I may have to adopt that because I don't have anything that simple. And I think there's the simplicity of that is so powerful, Patti.
Well, I've discovered that easy is not what makes me, for example, as a solopreneur, does not make me reach my goals. Easy never works, right? Comfortable is not the answer to reaching goals. So you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to just do it. You just have to do those things that make you feel so uncomfortable, that scare you, that make you feel, like you're going to throw up at any moment. That's what you got to do.
And for some of you out there who are always at the office and you're not home, you might need, that might be being terrified of meeting your neighbors.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, crazy and true. That's interesting. I carve time out of every single week of mine, Patti, to specifically reflect. And most of the time it's for me as a leader, and then meaning me as a leader, as a co-partner in our household, also the leader of Red Direction, how all of those things work together with all of this volunteer stuff. But then in the nitty gritty, how well did I actually do last week? Where did I really mess it up? Where did I really succeed? What happened that's actually not moving the whole company or the whole household, whatever I happen to be thinking about at that moment, the whole company forward the way it needs to go?
Yeah. I've discovered that if I am struggling to do something that I know I need to do, it's almost always for me fear-based, that I have to just figure out how to get past it. And it's so it can be so hard sometimes, but that there's greatness on the other side, or you'll get to greatness if you can get to the other side. Yeah. But even when it comes to having your family, right? Like, should you put your son in this camp or that camp? And, should he be spending time with this kid, or is something, kind of that makes you feel uncomfortable with that kid? Like, I feel like we have challenges all the time about this stuff.
We do. And I also find it easier to look at other people and go, ooh, I could do that for myself too. So totally. If anybody ever hears me talking about that and I'm actually sharing, I'm never complaining. I'm like, if you ask me the question, I'm probably I'm telling you about a situation because I think I might be doing the same thing. And I got to process, how could I see it go over there so I can bring it in to here and bring my head, heart, and my gut into this process. I like that you just power through and you stick with it. For me, I have to remind all my emotions that they're welcome. And sometimes I have a really long train of wagons. Yeah. So here's my happy and my scared at the same time. Here's my frustrated, and here's the anger from something that, like getting a flat tire on the way to work. All of it has to be there in every moment and still be able to go forward so that whatever structure is in place can have the maximum impact possible.
Yeah, that's and I agree with that. I think that we need to just feel all the emotions, even when they kind of suck. I mean, being an entrepreneur means that your emotions sometimes might be like this over the course of a single day. You might have like great ups followed by great downs. Mm-hmm. But I think it's all necessary. I think that living like, I call it like a vanilla life where you're like, everything is just even, is just so bloody boring that I'd rather have the big highs and the big lows, because I just do not want to have that vanilla life.
Isn't that funny? Al, I'm going to give you a shout out right here. I had a guy that I worked for named Al, and Al was like, Jess, you're so black and white. And then he would say, I want everything to be vanilla because I just want it to easily interchange. And he's talking about operations of an organization and all the stuff that goes with that. And I was like, I'm only black and white once we've made a decision. Yeah. And then I'm like, the decision has been made. So unless you sit me down and tell me something else is happening, or other stuff needs to come into the mix as we're going down this path, I got blinders on. I know the path. I'll see you at the end, right? Yeah. And then the whole concept of vanilla, I want everything vanilla so that we can interchange it. There is such value in both of those, in knowing those things, right? Some people, I don't get scope creep, because once a decision is made, I can keep blinders on all the way to the end.
Right.
If we keep adding things and keep having the conversations that expand the idea, it won't get done on time, on budget, with the right resources. So there's that piece, right? And then there's this concept of vanilla. What'd you say?
I said it might be Neapolitan, but it's not going to work.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. And then I'm like, you're right. For the skills we don't have. And in that company, they did not have internal IT people, right? There was nobody to fix computers. There was nobody to take care of some of that stuff. It was just whoever was at the front desk. And boy, were they capable. Each person that sat at the front desk, they knew a lot more about computers than I did. But the purpose of keeping them vanilla was that then it didn't matter. It was the curve to learning how to keep everything going and how to replace what we had was super easy for anybody at any position in any of those locations. And so I was like, there's elements of that as well. So while you might not want a vanilla life, you may want some vanilla infrastructure.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 No, I totally agree with that.
But just for kicks, I like to throw stuff on top.
Yeah. Yeah. Like some cherries and some chocolate syrup, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All good things.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so important. Are there parts of your business that you've structured that are similar to that? Like, I want to set it and forget it, and I don't want to review it very often because I need it to be consistent and easily fixable and easily changeable on call.
I think my processes are like that, or
Yeah.
processes. I think I say that in a Canadian way. Sorry about that. But I think that I have like a process that I follow whenever I'm doing a project. Like, I never start writing without doing research. And my research consists of, customer interviews and surveys and some forum mining. And that's just, I follow like almost, it's ingrained in me, but almost like a checklist, right? So this is what I do. And then I do the first draft without doing any editing. And then I go in and edit. And then I check it against the voice of customer research. So I think that kind of stuff, I definitely follow. Like, I would never sit down. Sometimes people ask me, oh, can't you just like write something? And I would never do that because that's just so foreign to me and I know it doesn't work, to be honest with you. But I would say that that's probably like my process. And I have like a number of things I do very automatically. I have like, a way to capture emails on my website, and that goes into my email list, and they get automated emails, and it's just very simplified.
I'm thinking about that process, that checklist that's ingrained in you that you go through. That's scalable. It's scalable because it's something that somebody else could be taught.
Yeah.
And it also is scalable because it doesn't matter if it's one person or 100 people that's doing that particular process. There's a built-in integrity to whatever your deliverable is,
right,
and what you've told the customers to be. So I think that's fantastic. That's something that you can rely on, and that's all the same. I'm totally with you, though. There are some things that just don't work.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not until you do them that you realize it. And I will tell you, people listening, this is the whole purpose of the Voice of Bold Business. I shouldn't say the whole purpose. One of the purposes is so that you can learn from what we're doing, so you don't have to do what we did to have the same experience.
Yeah.
True?
Like cutting corners almost never works, right? It so rarely works that I don't know why people still do it. Instead of going on a diet, you take like a diet pill, and then you feel terrible. You feel like bloated, and you have like gastrointestinal problems. Like, why would you do that? Just quit eating some of the shit you're eating all the time,
Exactly. Well, okay. What makes it bold? What makes it bold to reflect and look at your own leadership characteristics to continue to evolve and improve how you lead?
That's a good question. I think a good part of it is taking a step back and really trying to see how well you're doing. Like if you say you're leading a company and all of a sudden you have terrible or turnover in staff, like looking at that and saying, is there something I have contributed to this that is making people hate working here and look for another job? I think that's part of it, is not being so secure in what you're doing that you are not able to look and see what you could be doing differently. because, you know, how you lead at 30 is going to be different than how you lead at 60. That's just the way it is. But you don't want to become that, you know, something completely irrelevant by the time you're 60, because you have not done the work to become a better leader all the time. So I would say it's that.
You are listening to the Voice of Bold Business Radio, and today's program has program notes. You can find them at voiceofboldbusiness.com/P232. That's voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 232. You can also search the site for Patti Haus or Necessary Leadership Characteristics. All right, you're here. You made it to the end. Rate us. Tell Patti and I what you thought about our conversation today. And that's on whatever listening platform you happen to be on. And use hashtag VBB Radio or radio at reddirection.com to keep this conversation going. Ask your questions. Tell us your stories, because your voice matters as much as ours does to define what effective leadership looks like today. And so share with us, how do you decide what are necessary leadership characteristics?
The Voice of Bold Business Radio gives you insights about how to achieve your company's growth strategy. Use hashtag VBBRadio or email us at radio@reddirection.com to ask questions and share your experiences. Add your voice to the conversation. Together, we define what being an effective leader means today. Special thanks to the Scott Treatment for technical production. Thank you for joining us.